Hey, this is Brian with King Grizzly. I want to take a look today at working with typography styles in Elementor. After a lot of trial and error, I think I've got a method here that should save people a lot of time and is actually pretty fun to use and maybe gets rid of any confusion people have with working with Elementor typography styles. So let's take a look. All right, I'm excited to show this. I think this is one of the better tips we've landed on lately. So I've put 6 heading widgets on a page. So if I go to Elementor widgets, there's this heading widget. I put 6 in a row, and then I've set their tag respectively, H1, H2, H3, all the way down to H6. And then I have a text editor widget, which would be this widget, which is basically just body copy. And then I have a style that I made up called label, which is something I consistently notice on sites. We'll get into this shortly, but I just happen to notice this effect, this sort of styling is consistently on sites. So I want to show you the key setup for these. If we click on any of these and go to style, like if I click on the H1, you'll notice I have not manually styled anything about this locally here on the page. Same with the H2. That I just didn't set this. They're coming from global styles. So let's get to the global styles. Top left, click on the hamburger, go to site settings. Now there's two tabs here, global fonts and typography. And this is where it can get confusing. And I made a video in the past where I basically showed people, I just zeroed out everything about global fonts and ignored them. And I would come into typography and I'd set the paragraph styles and I'd set the H1 through H6. And I'd do that by clicking the pencil and then styling them, right? And I would do that on this tab. However, I ran into one hang up with that, which was like, for example, if I had an H2 on a page, it would always size the way I had set the pencil, but sometimes I want an H2 to be smaller. Like I might want to mark it up as an H2, but size it smaller. Well, I would run into this problem where I'd then have to manually go resize that particular H2 over and over manually. This new method's better, and that's not required, and I'll show you what I mean. So if we go to global fonts, I've fiddled with these, but by default, I believe there's 4, and it's like primary, secondary, can't remember the third one, maybe text, and then accent or something like that. But you can change the names. And Derek at Solid Interactive in Chicago, really awesome agency up there, gave me this tip about going with sizes instead. So instead of like primary and secondary, he said, well, just change those. And so what we have here is extra, extra large, XL, then we have the body size, then large, medium, small, extra small. And those we've corresponded to H1, H2, H3, all the way through H6, then you can see I set up a label one. So if I were to click on the pencil for H1, you can see I have my font size, all the settings I want. I can go across tablet and mobile if I select these and set them all up. So then I've got these global styles. And then what I do is I go back to typography and I affiliate these tags with those global styles. So like in H1, I click on the globe and I go choose that extra, extra L. And then the H2 would be XL, H3 would be large. And so it's all sort of like size based. And then my typography, my body copy would be affiliated with the text. So here's where this is gets really useful. If I X out of here, I'm going to discard my changes. Let's say we have an instance like I mentioned before where there's an H2 on a page like this. It's marked up as an H2. But what if I want it to size like an H4? The way I had done it initially, I would have to then go to style, click on the pencil, and then go figure out whatever my H3 sizing values were and enter those here locally. Now I don't have to do that. I just click on the globe and I choose H3. So now I've got the H3 sizing, but I've still got the H2 markup. So that to me was a real game changer. So I could choose H5 or any style. So here's my little label style. And now I've got an H2 that's styled like a label. So you can get really creative with this under the global styles is make up as many styles as you want for your site. And then you can pull on those using this global icon here instead of constantly having to click the pencil and then styling a font for desktop, tablet, and mobile over and over. And then if you get a large site and say you change your mind later on and you've manually styled 25 headings all throughout the site, you'd have to go track them all down or write CSS and target them. This method, I think, solves some of the headaches. Actually, pretty much most of them. This method just works really well for me. So the trick is just coming up with sort of like a smart conventions for your global fonts. So maybe coming up with one that's for menu items or for tags. And so you just kind of have these global items and then you can tie into them using the globe icon. For me, this has saved me a lot of time. It's actually made sites more fun to build. I think at the moment, this is the best way to handle typography styling. There's one more crucial item I wanted to mention, and that is to go into Elementor settings. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and we need to turn on a couple checkboxes. So Elementor settings, by default, I believe these two checkboxes, disable default colors and disable default fonts, I think they're unchecked. And I've had problems with that interfering with my styles. By checking these, it will disable the default Elementor colors and make them inherit colors from the theme. This is a little confusing to me, the way this is worded, but I'm using the Hello theme. And I've noticed when these are not checked, I believe it's when they're not checked, I've sometimes had some issues with the styles not looking like I expected, but then checking these fixed it. You may want to experiment with having them on or off. But just a heads up, this may save you some stress. So hopefully that was useful. Hopefully the tutorial in general was useful. And if so, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel as we will continue to create more helpful Elementor content. Thank you and have a good day.